Stephanie, for that incredible introduction. With that and the speeches we've gotten from our award winners, we could call it a night. I don't know that there's any more I could add, but thank you for that generous introduction. And thank you for sharing your 5th anniversary with us tonight. What are you doing next year? We can celebrate the 6th one too. But mostly thank you for your voice. I miss your voice in Washington, both of your voices. And if we're lucky, someday we're going to have that voice back in Washington. So thank you for being here, for celebrating with us, and thank you all. It is so good to see so many wonderful friends. I have such fond memories, and I can go from table to table, and I look at you and I remember those times and the experiences we had together. It's for your friendship, and for your support, and for the incredible energy that you have given me and my family all these years. I just can't begin to thank you enough. Let me also congratulate our award winners. Did they not pick 3 of the finest people we could have picked in the Democratic Party? Well deserved. And how great it is to be here on what is now officially George McGovern Day, thanks to our fantastic mayor, Mike Uther. This is really, I am so pleased to have a chance to celebrate this special evening. It's an honor for me to be here, to be named on a night named after a man that has made us so very, very proud to be a Democrat. Of course, in a totally different context, if we really wanted to name this dinner after those who have made us proud to be a Democrat, I guess we could name it the Gingrich, Santorum, Romney dinner. It's been quite a primary season, and the more I watch it, the prouder I am to be a Democrat. I'll tell you that. It's finally down, it looks like, to the last man standing, Mitt Romney, where it's now still a 2-man race. But we're just so glad that George could be here. As we all know, he fell a couple of months ago and hit his head on the cement outside his library. And he's with us tonight, looking as good as I've ever seen him. And with even that hard hit he took on the head, even that didn't make him a Republican. So I am so pleased that George could be here. I hope that one person who couldn't be with us tonight, but who we salute and we thank, is our dear Senator Tim Johnson. We are so grateful for all that he does for us, for our country, for the state of South Dakota, and for the United States Senate. Thank you, Tim Johnson. And Stephanie's absolutely right. We're going to send a new voice to Washington in November with Jeff or Matt. We can salute them and thank them, and we've got to work as hard as we can, because that is a winnable race. And we're going to do it this year with a new voice in Washington starting next January. Let me also, as she did, thank each of our candidates. There's something extra required of a candidate in South Dakota as a Democrat. You've got to work harder, you've got to give more, you've got to do everything plus to win an election against a Republican in most parts of our state. And when they pour it on, they need us as much as they need anything. They give up 3 things as they campaign every day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we've got to help them. Because with the caliber of candidates we've got this year, for the backdrop and the climate we've got this year, there is absolutely no reason every one of those people who stood tonight could win next November, and we've got to help them and make sure that it happens across South Dakota. Let me thank, I have to say, I am so impressed with what our dear chairman is doing. He, as I understand it, cut his teeth, at least in a professional way, in my 1998 race. And when Ben helped me on that race and we won, I knew he was destined for great things. Little did I ever know I'd call him Mr. Chairman. But we owe Ben Nusselhoff a very, very big debt of gratitude for his extraordinary work. Cecilia, we're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. And I thank all of our tribal leadership for the support and the partnership that they show the Democratic Party year in and year out. As I was walking in tonight, Cecilia said, we're going to kick their butts on every reservation in South Dakota, and she's going to do it, and she'll be leading the effort. We've all heard about and probably read, in some cases, George's new book, What It Means to Be a Democrat. And like others who have said it already, it's really a book I hope everyone will read. It is terrific. It goes to the heart and soul of what it is to identify ourselves today in the progressive way that George McGovern has for now 50 years. In his introduction, there's a line that caught my attention the very first time I read it, and I've come back to read it a couple more times just because I think it captures so much of what I want to share tonight. In his introduction, he says, I flinch when I hear speakers, religious, political, or otherwise, rely on passion at the expense of logic. I share George's concern tonight because we've seen example after example these last couple of months in particular, but over the course of the last couple of years, where ideology, passionate right-wing ideology, has increasingly obscured the facts and logic in our national political debate and debased the political process in a way that I don't recall ever seeing in my lifetime. On the economy, on social issues, on women's health, on climate. And it's clouded the public perception of the incredible success that we've seen in the last 3 years from this administration. Well, I stand before you tonight absolutely convinced, as others are as well, that our job is to ensure that the facts are out. And that if the facts are out and the people know the truth by November, Barack Obama and Joe Biden will be elected to a second term as they deserve to be. Pelosi will not only be the first speaker, but the second speaker we elect as women, as the first woman, in the country. We'll have that new voice in either Jeff or Matt in the House of Representatives that we need so badly. We'll give Tim Johnson the majority he needs to do the work in the Senate that we know is so critical to our future. I think about George's efforts to build this party in the 1950s. One index card at a time. One state fair at a time. And if you read his past books, you can just vividly recount the extraordinary challenge and the energy and the passion and the vision that he had in making us what we are today. I'm amazed at that leadership. But I have to say, I'm also amazed at how much has changed in those years since he started to build this party back in the 1950s. In August, some of you may recall that we actually had an earthquake centered outside of Washington. It was felt as far north as New England. Of course, some Republicans thought that it was a sign that the earth thought taxes were too high, but the amazing thing is, and here is something I think is really a reflection on how things have changed. People in New York read about the earthquake via Twitter before they felt it. Things are changing. Communication is speeding up faster than anything we have ever seen before. And the realities of all of that change as it affects business and politics is only beginning to be fully appreciated. It's not uncommon now for a presidential candidate to announce 2 years ahead of the election in order to have the fundraising mechanisms in place to be successful. But the irony in all of this is that even with faster and more information, many voters seem less informed than they've ever been on so many of the key issues. I was struck by a recent poll that reported the majority of Southern Republican voters actually thought Barack Obama was a Muslim, and that evolution and climate change were hoaxes. My only consolation is that this isn't new. Winston Churchill once remarked that the best argument against democracy is 5 minutes with the average voter. He had to have been thinking a lot about those Republicans when he made that quote. But in 2012, our challenge is to make sure that as Democrats, as South Dakotans, and as people committed to progressive politics in this country, that as passion and ideology obscure the logic and facts, it is all the more important that we demand and that we inform ourselves of those facts and of our logic in the media and from political leaders and from organized political groups across this land. Andrew Sullivan, the former editor of the New Republic, wrote a fantastic piece about 2 months ago, I guess it was, in the front of Newsweek magazine. It should be mandatory reading because he so efficiently destroys the myths and lays out the facts so beautifully. And as we prepare ourselves for this campaign and the debate that will take place over the kitchen and coffee tables and restaurants and cafes across South Dakota and the country, making sure that we have those facts is so important. He starts by writing about the economy. When President Obama took office in January of 2009, our country was hemorrhaging jobs at 750,000 a month. That exceeds the population of the state of South Dakota, and we were losing that many jobs every month. The potential of a total global financial collapse. This president and Democrats in Congress didn't waste any time. They came to Washington and they did several things almost immediately, bolstering a national effort to save our financial system from an absolute, complete meltdown. He did it by passing the Economic Recovery Act, now credited with more than 3 million new jobs. He did it with the flat-out salvation of the American auto industry as we know it today. He didn't just save 1 million jobs in that industry, he actually saved the entire industry. And today, the big three automakers are turning a profit. They're paying back the debt that they owed the American taxpayer, and they're creating more jobs than we thought possible just 1 year ago. The results are nothing short of transformation. The job collapse bottomed out in 2010, as we all know. And as the stimulus took effect, more and more jobs were created to the point where we have now created more than 3.6 million jobs in the last 3 years. Now, 3.6 sounds impressive to me, but it's even more impressive when you consider the fact that that is more jobs than George W. Bush created in all 8 years he was in the White House.